Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Food School Smarter, Stronger, Leaner podcast on a mission to inspire a world where food makes us better. Today is Monday, guys, and it's a new week, it's new beginning. So whatever you think was holding you back last week, leave it in the past and start new today without any luggage from the past. So that's advice to you and advice to myself. By the way, we are shortly back to our home ground because Moscow didn't really feel right for me. I got a lot of ideas, decisions, but we're gonna plan something better next time. And that's how life works, guys. You try things. The more you try, the more you learn about yourself and about your life. So that's very important to actually do and try things. And yeah, sometimes it doesn't work out. Sometimes it seems like failure, but actually it's not. You're just learning more about yourself and about your life. So remember that next time something doesn't work out and just try something new. Today and this week is going to be about sugar awareness. You will hear more about sugar awareness and reducing our sugars because it's becoming more and more obvious that sugar is a huge negative thing in our diets, and it's just ridiculous, guys, where they put sugar these days. Like foods that never had any sugar would have sugar in them right now. I'm having a hard time finding sauerkraut without sugar. Like, why do you need to make sauerkraut sweet? It's not a requirement to put sugar in sauerkraut to make it ferment and do what it's supposed to do, and so many other things. Sugar is added more and more just to make people eat more of it, like desserts every day, every meal, and every time you eat something. That's just ridiculous. But anyhow, guys, a lot of you and a lot of people in general are starting to realize that they need to reduce sugars if they care about their health, mental, physical, their energy levels, their weight, because sugar does affect our hunger, our satiety, our eating habits, and as a result, our weight. But how do you reduce sugar if it seems to be everywhere? So today we are starting this conversation. Well, first of all, guys, sugars, that's such a confusing term. Like, sugars can be a part of whole food and not even necessarily sweet. So for example, milk would have lactose. It is a milk sugar. Fruit would have naturally occurring sugars. But also, for example, starch in potatoes or grains, this is kind of sugar, just complex sugars. The terminology is different, but when you break down starch molecule, it does consist of those simple sugar molecules. So sugar is complicated. Again, it can be part of a whole food. It can be refined, meaning extracted in some fashion from whole food source. It can be all natural or not so natural, and even natural, it's so hard to define, like high fructose corn syrup, like how natural it is. Even though most of the time it is extracted from corn, but by industrial means. Or for example, take regular white sugar. Sugar is actually made from beets. So is it natural then? And what's the difference between coconut and cane sugar then? Just because in brown it doesn't, mean much. It just means there is a little bit less refinement in that. But compared to other sugars, not so much difference. Let's take, for example, fruit juice. It's seemingly completely different substance from sugar, but yet it is highly concentrated fruit sugar, fructose, different molecule, but it is still a concentrated source of sugar. It's not the same as eating whole fruit with all the fiber, with all the water in whole package. Or let's take dried fruit. It is a concentrated source of fruit sugar. And if you dry fruit, if you make it into a powder. So like, what's the difference now between sugar, added sugar, and that dried fruit? You know, they make sugar out of dates. So do you consider it sugar or dried fruit? And do you now allow yourself to eat dates just because it sounds more natural? Again, white sugar is made of beets or sugar cane, depending, you know, where you're coming from, what you're eating. So, and then guys, you know, if that was not confusing enough, there are sweeteners. So stevia is not sugar, it's actually a sweetener. It's a different molecule, and it tastes sweet not because of sugar molecule, but because some compounds in that herb or leaf makes it taste sweet to our tongue, but it has nothing to do with sugar. Or and then erythritol or other fancy close to zero caloric sweeteners, like how natural are they? You know, they are created by feeding bacteria with some natural material. So is this natural now? And it is very confusing, guys. And you need to have some rules if you do care about your health, your metabolic health, your overall health, your energy levels, your gut bacteria, your weight, and your appetite and hunger awareness and management. So you need to have some rules, but how do you make them when it's so confusing? I'm going to share with you my rule. It's really simple. If sugars are not a part of a whole food package, like for example, in fruit, whole food, meaning nothing extracted, nothing refined. So it's whole fruit, not juiced, not pureed into smoothie, not dried. So if it's not a part of whole food, then I'm not going to be eating that. And that seems to be working for me and all of my clients and people I work with. Now, I don't know what happens, but when sugar is concentrated in some way, even though it might be juiced, pureed into smoothie or dried and be all natural and all organic, it does something to our hunger, to our appetite, and it's harder to control our eating habits and support our healthier eating habits and maintain weight. So concentrated sources of sugar do all kinds of stuff besides spiking our blood sugar much, much more than we compare that to whole food package. So my rule is, again, if it doesn't come in a whole food package, I'm not eating it. And guys, I highly recommend you to have some rules, some simple rules like that, so you could navigate a food environment, our confusing and overwhelming food environment much either. Otherwise, having to make decision about whether you are eating that or not and how much of that eating, that will overwhelm you and make healthier eating so much more difficult. And at the end of the day, you're just not going to stick it. When rules are too complicated, you're not going to stick with them. It is truth for our eating habits, for our food decisions, and for any other areas of life. So if the rules are too complicated, you're not going to stick with them. So now we talked about this confusing subject of sugars and sugar rules and why it's important to have them. Now let's talk about some common products that masquerade as healthy foods, but a lot of times they have spoons of added sugar in them, and that makes anything not that healthy really, depending on how much sugar is added. But still, again, it makes it harder to control your eating habits. It makes your diet overall not so healthy. It will contribute to not so healthy metabolism, and it's going to make it so much harder to control your weight and your hunger and your eating habits. And at the end of the day, it's going to make it harder for you to eat nutritionally balanced diet, and that will come with a whole range of negative health consequences. So what are those healthy, quote unquote, foods that aren't really? Today I'm going to mention 5 groups that a lot of people think, those are healthy foods. Number 1, yogurts. Yogurts, drinkable yogurts, eatable yogurts, yogurt-like substances. A lot of them, most of them would have added sugars, and some of them would have really a lot of added sugar. Some of them wouldn't even have probiotic bacteria that is so that what makes yogurt good for us. They might look like yogurt, but there might be no alive and active bacteria, as we already talked on one of the episodes. So sugar loaded fruit, or maybe chocolate or vanilla yogurts, those are not healthy foods. So I highly recommend you to stick with plain yogurts with live and active bacteria. And if you need some flavor in it, add it yourself by adding fresh fruit into that. So yogurts, all kinds of kefirs, and other similar products. The next one, fancy drinks. If it does say kombucha on it, it doesn't mean that sugar coming with it is good for you. So no matter how organic or fermented or non-fermented or, cold press or whatever that is, juices, freshly squeezed, it's still a concentrated form of sugar. Fancy word doesn't make sugar go away. It doesn't make it better for you guys. So please make sure that all of your drinks, sometimes they add just a tiny bit of some sort of sugar, and that might be okay. So if you really like some drink, check the data, how much sugar is actually in it. And I would never drink anything with more than, I'm really obsessed with that, so I probably wouldn't drink it if it has even like half of teaspoon of sugar. And now these days, they say new guidelines say less than 120 calories so comes from sugar, and each teaspoon has about 16. So anyhow, guys, if you want to make decision about any single product, you can. But I highly do not recommend that. Otherwise, again, it's going to be a gray area. And again, when the rules are complicated, you're not going to make the best ones. So fancy drinks, make sure there is no added sugars. And also that, again, added sugar can have fancy names like evaporated cane juice or organic coconut sugar or organic nectar or agave syrup or honey. Those are all added sugars. So if there is a lot of it, not good for you. The next one, granola. A lot of times granola has really a lot of sugar, like really a lot. And then it will say something like high fiber, heart healthy because it is low fat. But whenever something has loads of sugar, it is not gut healthy or heart healthy or brain healthy, no matter how much fiber you add to that. So just guys, make sure that you're not eating every day for breakfast some dessert with added fibers and vitamins and minerals. That does not make it better for you. Fitness bars, protein bars. Sometimes I even wonder why do they call why do they call protein bars when there is more sugar in them? Like, you might as well call it sugar bar and with added protein, but then of course nobody will buy that, so they call it a protein bar. Or fitness bar. And guys, let me tell you that there is nothing fitness about added sugars. So check the added sugars on your fitness or your protein bar. The chances are, and even all those, kind bars, most of them have added sugars. And yeah, it might be in the form of a lot of dried fruit, but it's still a concentrated source of sugar or honey or whatever, or coconut or sugar or cane sugar, but it's still sugar no matter how kind or fitness or whatever they are. So check the ingredients on the bars you might be buying. Even if it comes in a fridge in your gym, still doesn't make added sugar any more healthier. And whether you're working out or not, unless you need some added sugar for your performance for some event, I highly do not recommend to make added sugars, refined sugars, a part of your diet. And again, refined, anything is refined. Fruit juice is also a refined form of sugar. So don't forget that. And then the last but not least, dressings, sauces, and takeout meals. There is sugar almost anywhere there. So guys, make sure to order your food without any dressings and sauces, and sometimes they even marinate food in some sugar marinade. So that's why I don't eat out often, that and vegetable oils that they add, that they use to cook everything in almost every restaurant. But also if you buy mayo or any source of ketchup or, anything like that, any dressing, make sure there is no added sugars. It is very hard to find ones without any added sugars. And even if it says organic and all natural, we talked about that. Sugar is all natural too, so don't be fooled by those labels. And the last point I want to add, guys, foods that I consider and most of the people in the industry consider equal to sugars. Those are refined grain and starch products. So anything made of starchy flours, usually from grain flours or some sort of starch, it is considered to be or equal to sugars. Now again, those might be complex sugar molecules, but at the end of the day, they still gonna add quite a bit of sugar in your diet. Now, they not always will spike your blood sugar just as much, but they still will contribute to the same problem, especially if it's made of highly refined white flour. Those are things like, bread, pasta, pizza. Yep, those are also sugars, even though there is no other sugar added. So no refined flour either. And that's about it that I wanted to share with you today, guys. So what we talked about today was sugar is complicated. Don't be fooled by, all these organic or natural labels. Have some rules about your sugar consumption. Like my rule is, unless it comes in a whole food, I'm not eating that. So simple rule, and it seems to serve me and many people really well. Make sure that you are not consuming sugar in quote-unquote healthy foods like yogurts or fancy drinks like kombucha or granola or fitness protein bars or dressing and sauces. And don't forget that anything made with starchy refined flours is kind of equal to sugars. And even when it's whole grain flour, I would never recommend to make it a big part of your diet if you care about your health, your metabolic health, and your overall nutritional status and nutritional quality of your diet. And that's it for today, guys. Your introduction to sugar awareness. Know your sugars, make some rules around those sugars, and don't let any fancy labels fool you. That's it for today, guys. Thank you for listening. Thank you for staying tuned, changing your eating habits, making better choices. That's how we all gonna shape our new food system, guys. So thank you for doing that, for making better choices, and also help others to make the same choices. Share this podcast with them, discuss it, learn from each other, and learn together and practice it together. So the more people make better choices, the more we will educate our food industry what we want more of and what we want less of. So let's do it together, guys. And as usual, thank you for listening. Until next time, eat better daily.